गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। Today we're going to talk about the Northeast. And to talk about the Northeast, I have with me General Pradeep Nair, uh, who's been the DG of Assam Rifles. And I don't think you'll we'll get a better person than General Nair to talk about the Northeast. Look, Northeast, a lot of things are happening. Or whether it's Manipur or drugs or conversion factor, from into Christianity. That's a big racket which has opened up off late. Then you talk of Bangladesh, you talk of Manipur, Myanmar, and a whole lot of things. Humanitarian corridor, non-humanitarian corridor, the works. And over and above that, the dam in Arunachal, which we spoke of in the morning, and so many things are happening in Northeast. It is with this in mind that I said, look, we don't have a better person than General Nair to talk about it with us. At the outset, General Nair, thanks a lot for joining into Gunner Shot and welcome to Gunner Shot once again.
Sir, good evening, sir. Thank you so much. Very nice to be here, and this subject in particular, I think, merits much more importance than what the media usually gives it.
Yeah, I think that's a very apt thing. So I'll let you talk. And I'll only interrupt you when you have to change a topic or something. Then we could this thing. I'm sure you'll cover all these things. Whenever you change a topic, we'll have a break, have a little guftagu, and then we'll move ahead. Till then, it's all yours. Over to you.
Right, sir. Uh, there are so many things that need to be spoken about the Northeast, but a quick 1 minute of introduction, I think, is necessary for some of the viewers who might be new. Well, we're looking at an area which constitutes just about 8% of the geographical area of the Indian subcontinental landmass. It has a population which is just about 4% of the population of the country, and unfortunately contributes only about 2.8% to the country's GDP. But having said that, there are other important things that need to be understood. This is a region that borders five different countries: Nepal, China, Myanmar, Bangladesh, and Bhutan. Uh, there are, as of now, a population of about 45 million, which is hardly anything when you compare to rest of the country. But more importantly, it also has about close to 60% of the forest cover of the area. Sorry, I stand corrected. About 38% of the forest cover of our country, but within the northeast, about 76% of the area is forested, which means it's an area which has a lot of these mountains, hills, ranges. You have the Himalayas in the north, in Arunachal Pradesh. Then you have the Patkai ranges and the Manipur and Mizo hills to the southeast. So that is where it is bounded, and you have these two very important valleys of Brahmaputra and Barak Valley,
The Barak.
uh, in the Assam plains. So that is the broad prospective or broad introduction I want to give. And along with that, one factor which again people must remember is that the diversity is so much. There are about 220 ethnic groups that are there, and a state like Nagaland, for example, has 16 different tribes, all speaking 16 different languages. One tribe doesn't understand the language that the other speaks, the common denominator being a language called Nagamese, which is very similar to Assamese. Uh, Having said that, let me come to a few issues that are current. One is within the Northeast itself, and then, as Jan Shankar rightly brought out, the two neighboring countries which are in turmoil, which are Myanmar and Bangladesh, and those are the countries that I shall be referring to. I shall not talk much of China unless some question comes on that. And Bhutan and Nepal, of course, I don't think there is much concern as of now. So let me get to the Northeast itself. And as a military person, as two military persons who are discussing, I think the most important, significant for us is the security angle. Now, in this, when you talk of security, it is the security of the borders. Let's talk of the LAC, for instance. And while things might be seem to be getting better between India and China, and I read this evening that probably our external affairs minister is going to be visiting China very soon. But the point to also remember is as recently as last week, when the Dalai Lama celebrated his 90th birthday, there was a little kind of a disquiet that was there. Our Prime Minister wished the Dalai Lama on his birthday, and that was not taken too kindly. There were statements that were put out by the Chinese ambassador in India. Again, it's not the statements made were not very good, not in good taste. Usually not done at not a diplomatic language for sure. But what one needs to understand is most of you would have followed what happened during the celebrations. The Dalai Lama spelled out that a succession will happen after that. And previously, in his book of Voice of the Voiceless, which was released earlier this year, he did mention that uh, his successor could be well uh, in a place which is free, in a free country, which means surely not China. China, which is now trying to dictate who the next Dalai Lama will be. So, what that means for India is when the succession happens, uh, there will be a very tightrope walk that India will have to do. But whatever India does, there will be fallouts. And there possibly could be fallouts of the recent happenings as well, because you had two important ministers being present there. You had one union minister and one state chief minister of Arunachal Pradesh. Of course, both of them went in their individual capacities based on the religion that they follow. But that's fine. But surely, when such things happen, China does something. So, what I'm trying to imply is we could expect something on the LAC, and not just Arunachal. Along with that, in Ladakh, and also could be Sikkim. The other boundaries, international boundaries that we need to be concerned about are the Indo-Myanmar boundary. Uh, a lot of fighting is happening across the 1643 kilometers that is there, and fallout of that is obviously felt in the states of Mizoram and Manipur largely, and then Nagaland and South Arunachal Pradesh also to some extent. As recently as 4 days back, there were 1,500 refugees who came into Mizoram through Zokhautar, which is Champai district, which is to the eastern part of Mizoram. This is in addition to the earlier refugees who were there. Um, in all, roughly between 50 to 60,000 refugees came in. It is estimated that there still are about 30 to 35,000 of them who are there in Mizoram, and that's a huge problem. They are spread over 100 odd camps all over the state. But when they come, along with them, it's fair to assume that there would also be, ingress of weapons, some militants, and drugs, of which General Shankar spoke. And drugs is a major issue of which I want to speak about. So while the fighting is happening there, there is also involvement of the Indian insurgent groups in the fighting in Myanmar, and in the process, there are, like I said, there are weapons that are being smuggled into the northeast, largely into Manipur and Mizoram, and that is an area of concern for us. Insofar as the Bangladesh border, unlike the Myanmar border, which is open, that's a fenced border. There are very limited areas where it is not fenced, but the situation in Bangladesh itself is not too good. You know that the chief of army staff and the chief advisor, Dr. Yunus, there at loggerheads. While things may seem very good on the surface, but there are a lot of undercurrents happening there. Jamaat is getting more powerful, and recently there was some kind of a collaboration that happened between the Jamaat factions of uh, Pakistan and the Jamaat faction that is there in Bangladesh. And here I would like to mention the Chhatra Shibir, or the youth of the Jamaat of Bangladesh who went across to Pakistan. They had some kind of meetings, and also take into perspective the large number of provocations that the Yunus government has done to India, whether it in terms of statements that have come out from them, starting from Dr. Yunus himself, or his chief security advisor, or his foreign advisor. All of them have been make very very statements that are not really working towards better Indo-Bangladesh relationship. In addition, the increased presence of Pakistani delegations coming there, and then the humanitarian corridor, which Jan Shankar just spoke of, where the Americans are now trying to get in. You had in the month of March, you had the U.S. Pacific Command Chief of Staff coming there, General Vowell, I think was his name, and they are all here for a reason. Uh, the point one needs to understand is there's so many things that are happening. One needs to connect the dots. Jan Shankar spoke of Christianity along with drugs. I shall be speaking of that, and therein again, I want us to kind of connect the dots as to why this is happening in the manner that it is happening. Let's talk of insurgency after border guarding. Insurgency levels have come down drastically. If you see in the last, let's say, last 20 years back, in the year 2005 or so, we had approximately 800 to 850 insurgency related incidents happening, and we had close to about the 300 or 400 people dying every single year. Now that came down drastically. Let's come to 2020. Suddenly, the insurgency numbers or insurgency related numbers came down to 163. These are all the Home Ministry figures that I'm referring to here. Suddenly, it came down to about 163, 164, which was an all time low. And the number of deaths came down to just about 34. But after that, unfortunately, you had this Manipur incident starting in May 2023, and then again the number of deaths or insurgency-related activities have gone up, but again, not very much. When you take the complete northeast in perspective, today insurgency-related activities, about 78% of them are from Manipur. And Manipur, as I have been writing in the last couple of months, is seeing a huge amount of progress from what was happening some time back. There are a lot of positives that are happening, which media unfortunately is not reporting, and we shall speak of Manipur also separately after I touch the overall Northeast context. The next issue is about um, infrastructure and connectivity, which has usually been a big issue in the Northeast, and that is one of the fundamental reasons why Northeast has not developed. But before we come to that, if there are anything on security which sir you would like to ask, I'm open to that, sir.
No, you painted a very troublesome picture, if I might say, where there is something happening with the Chinese on the Dalai Lama issue. The Bangladesh, the internal situation is going bad to worse, and of course we know what is there in Myanmar. So the entire Northeast is surrounded by some kind of a turmoil or the other. And in that, you in the middle, you had Manipur, which is, burning. Yeah, like you rightly said, things are improving and they will improve, but it's going to take time. And what I'd like to tell everyone is that the thing in Northeast is things will change. They'll keep changing. Issues keep coming and going. But overall, there's a threshold of problems which will remain. And those threshold of problems are enough to give you nightmares. And that's where we are today. So, I mean, I'm just trying to put in context what he's speaking. All yours, Pradeep.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to add to that for the benefit of the viewers. What General Shankar was trying to probably allude to was while on the surface things might seem okay. I mean, now one has to compare this with what happens in Jammu and Kashmir. Anything that happens in Jammu and Kashmir straight away catches the eyeballs of the media, eyeballs of the rest of the country. But unfortunately, Northeast people don't understand because it's very, very complex. And added to that, you have neighbors in which
Or
the
even
situation,
more complex.
which is even more complex. For
Yeah.
example,
Yeah, I think give me a minute. This is my experience also. Like he's been expert on Northeast. I have had also had I mean, I wouldn't say I'm as good as him, but I've had some experience. It is my experience that, when you go and in the Northeast, you catch any problem by its toe and you start feeling up the body. And by the time you come and hit the catcher nose, you'll find that the problem itself has changed. You'll be somewhere else, and you're dealing with something completely different. That's the first thing about Northeast. When you start solving a problem or addressing a problem, you don't know what you are actually addressing. You see the symptom and you address that problem. But what the actual problem will surface somewhere else as you go down the line. That's one thing funny about the Northeast. It always surprises you. The second thing about the Northeast is, which is unfortunate, which I'll ask him to also touch upon. The mainstream media doesn't cover Northeast. What happens in the Northeast, no one, it remains there only for local circulation. So the issues which are of relevance, I mean, let me put it this way. If there's a chap in Pakistan border who farts, it's big news. It's breaking news all over India. But people dying in the Northeast is not. We don't even come to know. Okay. So that is something which we have to understand. So what General Nair is telling you is very important if you really want to understand Northeast. Pay attention. Over to you, Pradeep.
Thank you, sir. I am glad you brought out the importance of the Northeast, and this fundamentally was going to be my statement towards the end. But I'll state that right here. For those of you who are not aware of much of Northeast, I would request all of you to kindly indulge a little more. The future growth engine of the country is going to be from the Northeast, and I'll give that by certain facts that I have to state. So let me get on to the infrastructure part and the connectivity thing, which I was speaking of. Till a few years ago, there were no railheads or no railway lines going into the capitals of the states other than Assam, which had only Guwahati was there, and then Agartala came on later. But all the other states now, the railway line progress has been very good. Let me take these states one by one. Nagaland, for example, the line from Dimapur to Zubza is making progress. It is said maybe in a couple of years that will be on. The Manipur one, Jiribam to Imphal, that's also coming up. It would have been completed by 2024 last year, but for the disturbances that have happened there, like at Mizoram, very recently, a trial run was done of the rail which goes from Silchar into Mizoram. So these are all great changes that have happened. Also look at Sikkim. Sikkim also, there is a railway line now going very close to Gangtok, starting from Siliguri itself. So these are changes in the railway. Let's look at the highways. People will not believe that in the last 10, 12 years, 10,000 kilometers of highways have come up in the Northeast. And let me draw your attention to some important highways that are coming up in Arunachal Pradesh, for example. You have the Great Frontier Highway in Arunachal Pradesh, which will run from Mago, which is to the west, very close to Bhutan border. That is western Arunachal Pradesh. It will go right down to Vijayanagar. Vijayanagar is a salient 830 square kilometers, which runs into Myanmar. So across this complete length, now, this is going to be an engineering marvel. The cost of this highway itself is about, it is estimated it will be anything between 30 to 40,000 crores. And that is because of the geographical layout of the state. As you would understand, all the mountains run north and south, but this highway is going to run east west or west
East
east, as
West.
you say. So it has to continuously go across, cut through, have tunnels, go across the hills, and connect from one end of the state to the other. Similarly, you have a Trans Arunachal Pradesh, which will be a little south of that and closer to the foothills, essentially to ensure the east-west connectivity towards the plains and along the and closer to the Brahmaputra Valley. So these two highways, when they come up, and they should be coming up maybe by 2030, they should be fully operational. It's going to be a huge game changer. In fact, when the highway itself was on the drawing board, sometimes in 2012, and the current government started operationalizing it between 2012 and 14. Chinese had raised a lot of concerns as to why we are making, but they never spoke of the highways that they made or the railways they made on their side. Let's talk of waterways. The Brahmaputra is going to be already, it has been named as the National Waterway number 2, and it will connect from one end of Assam to the other. Transportation of goods will happen there. If I talk of airports, well, about 12 years back, there were 9 airports, 8 more have been operationalized, 17 of them are there, and that has really transformed the Northeast. Digital connectivity or telephone connectivity, again, very, very remote areas have been connected. And I'll give an example of while I was the IG in Nagaland, IG Assam Rifles 2019 to 18 to 20, there were many, very many parts of Nagaland which were not connected by mobile at all. For that matter, even Mizoram. But when I completed my tenure as DG Assam Rifles in last year, all these areas have been addressed. All those places have been taken care of. Similarly, like the Trans Arunachal Highway, there's another highway which is running north south along the eastern part of Nagaland. It, it runs along Patkai ranges, and ranges are hugely forested with a lot of rivers and streams. Very difficult terrain again. So all of this is coming, and the other issue which I want to again highlight here is in a way related security, but also fundamentally other ways also along the Indo-Myanmar border. You had this issue of free move regime, which last year, last February actually, the government declared that it will do away with the free move regime because of security concerns, and rightly so, because there are huge movements of insurgents and refugees happening in Manipur and Mizoram. So, of course, it's not been taken too kindly by the states which are there on the Indo-Myanmar border, South Arunachal Pradesh, those people there, Nagaland, Mizoram in particular, and of course the people living along the Indo-Myanmar border in Manipur. All of them have not taken to this very kindly because they have what you call as century-old ties. And I keep telling this at many places that I go that we talk of partition 1947, but there in those border areas bordering Myanmar, they say the first partition happened for us in 1937. Till then, Burma, well, Burma was also part of.
Yeah,
Yeah. So for them,
British India.
the Britishers drew a line, made a border, divided the people, and to ensure that division in physical form doesn't happen, this free move regime was established. But now, unfortunately, it has been used for purposes which are not too good for the security of the country. So this scrapping of free move regime was announced. But now there is a midway that the government is looking at. Essentially, scrapping means it will be legislated movement. There'll be very designated places from which these crossings will happen. Assam Rifles has the border guarding force has identified about 45 crossing places all along the Indo-Myanmar border from where these crossings will happen. And when the government spoke of fencing the border, again, it is not a physical fence as it exists, let's say, along the Indo-Pak or Indo-Bangladesh border. This will be a mix of physical and smart fence, where you'll have cameras, maybe some drones, radars, all of that to keep track of movement because the terrain is very difficult. Now, again, here I want to draw your attention to some of the criticism that comes to Assam Rifles being a border guarding force. They say, if you are there, why is the infiltration happening? Why is migration happening? Why are people coming across from the Indo-Myanmar border? So why don't you start guarding the border like the police does or the BSF does? BSF does border guarding in the form of nakas, whereas Assam Rifles does it in the form of company operating bases, which is the necessity, or which is actually dictated by the situation that exists, because it's in some way a live border. You have insurgents crossing over, and very often these insurgents fire at the Assam Rifle posts. So if you have nakas where you have 5 to 6 people, they'll just get overrun. That is the reason why Assam Rifle has company operating bases from where they send patrols ahead and guard the border. The next issue I want to bring about is state here is about the economy. I started by saying that it contributes only 2.8% of the country's GDP, but things are looking a lot better. Uh, I was there till last year, and year on year, I would see the delegations from FII, Federation of Indian Industry, and CII, etc., coming there and making certain promises of investment. And I used to monitor the figures that they said and what actually translated. And what I found was most of what they promised was actually delivered. So I want to just bring to the notice of the viewers as to what has happened this year in terms of investment. So you had investment in conclave in the month of May, I think, where almost 4.3 trillion rupees worth of money of investment has been promised. Tatas themselves have promised an investment of 27,000 crores uh, for some semiconductor setup that they're setting up in Assam. Then you have the Adanis, Ambanis also have promised investment, which is almost 70% of all investment that is coming. In addition, you have agencies like the Asian Development Bank, which has promised some $85 million for Tripura. Uh, what I'm trying to allude to is that things are going to change because of all these investments coming in. Of course, there is a concern in Manipur, and let me talk of Manipur itself now that I'm speaking about Manipur. Let me finish that before I come to the other factors. Manipur, what has changed this year is you had president's rule enforced in the month of February. A month before that, in January, you had a new governor coming who was the former Home Secretary. So he knew the complete situation well. And after president's rule, the law and order situation has improved further. In fact, the governor himself went and visited all the camps, internally displaced people where they were. Then, in addition, he also has ensured that the whatever rehabilitation things supplies had to go are going. A lot of weapons have been surrendered. Some of them have been confiscated, and cutting across both communities, people who are creating problems have been arrested in large numbers, and all this is happening with a great degree of cooperation between all the security forces, whether central or state, which is actually a healthy sign, which was not the case some time back. So things are looking good. There is also a forward movement happening in terms of talks being initiated between the two groups leaders. They were called jointly to New Delhi in the month of March. After that, there is a lot of back channel diplomacy that is happening, and I'm very sure it's just a matter of time before both communities start speaking. But unfortunately, the only problem is there is a certain minority who doesn't want peace to prevail. So they are in a state of constantly uh, creating trouble or spreading false narratives, and that is where the social media comes in. So they spin doctor things which are actually not there, not actually happening. They spin doctor in a manner to arouse the sentiments of people and get back to the levels of violence, which now, of course, people have got fed up of. They want normalcy to return. And in a very one of the articles that I wrote recently, when I in which I stated when I went to UK last month, on board the flight there were three air hostesses, one a Naga, one a Kuki, and one a Meitei from all three from Manipur, and the rapport that they were having, I mean the 10-hour flight was outstanding. So I got talking to them, and they were all chatting up together, and we discussed the Manipur issue, and all of them said unabashedly that we don't believe in all that is happening. It is only the pressure that we get from elders. But we are here. We are very happy. We are good friends, and that is exactly the case anywhere else in the country. If you go and see these children from Manipur, a lot of them are there in the services industry. You'll see that they are very good friends. They have no problems at all. So surely things are improving in Manipur. Now, the other point I wanted to make was on the migration part. Uh, in Mizoram, I stated 30 to 35,000 of them have come, and all these have come because in the villages that they lived in Myanmar, a lot of violence has happened. between the Myanmar army and the PDF, the People's Democratic Front, or the local militia that is there. Now, these people want to get back, but the situation is really not good. While they are here, they are not getting any jobs. They are all doing menial jobs. The on-ground situation is such that when they were initially coming, they were welcomed with open arms by the Mizos because they are, after all, from the same ethnicity. But increasingly now, there is some sort of discontentment within the Mizos. They want these people to go back because they are indulging in petty crimes, some kinds of violence, low-level violence, and all, which it doesn't work well for them. But like I said, along with them is this issue of drugs. And here I want to go into a little more detail on the drugs. So before that, sir, if there is anything I would like to answer, because
No,
drugs is,
I'm okay. I mean, the fact that, Manipur is on its way back to some kind of normalcy is good. But I go with you. It's not going to be easy. It's critical still. It remains critical. I mean, the way I look at it, it still remains in ICU. That's how it is. That's the character of Manipur. It doesn't happen immediately.
yes, sir.
It's going to be slow, incremental progress. And the fact that you spoke about those air hostesses, Naga, Meiti, Kuki, in who, and this is a fact. Outside Northeast, it doesn't matter where you belong, which state you belong, which tribe you belong, they're all friends. I see it here in Chennai, right? They're all very happy. And when you speak to them about the Northeast, they are so happy to interact with you that someone can, talk to them. You can identify their tribes. And when you ask a Northeast girl, are you a Methi or a Kuki, or who are you? She'll so happy and she will tell you what she is and all that. It's not only girls, everyone. So I think that's the thing. And one issue which I wanted to highlight about all this investment which is going on there, uh, let's not expect results immediately in Northeast. First and foremost, a lot of people promise a lot in Northeast. Delivery is not that much. Though the Nair has said certain amount of delivery has taken place, but I think there's a long way to go. And that has something else. It's not because people don't want to invest out there. The point is every area, every piece of land has got an ability to absorb investment in terms of infrastructure, in terms of you know, manpower, the human capital which is available there, and the environment in which government functions there, and things like that. If you take the sum of this, whatever you want to invest in, say, in the mainland of India, in the heart of India, heartland of India, right? In 1 year, you will not be able to invest more than 25% in the Northeast. This is the fact on ground. And also, when you invest at 25% in the Northeast, we must expect at least 30% of that investment will go dead within a couple of years. This is the history. It has got a lot to do with the Northeast. It has got to do a lot with the education there. It has got a lot to do with the environment there. It has got a lot to do with the socio-cultural, setup out there. So it's nothing against anyone. It's just the environment. So we have to be very patient with the Northeast. We have to be very understanding with the Northeast to take things forward. This is what I wanted to put across. So I'll be more than happy to listen about the drugs and, of course, the Christian conversion which is going on. Please.
Now, drugs is a very major issue, again, swept under the carpet, unfortunately. But I want to highlight this, and I've been doing it for the last few years, uh, as to how important this problem is. Now, the first thing you need to do is just go on the net and see which are the uh, top 10 states in the country which have which have the highest per capita consumption of illegal drugs, and you'll be amazed to see that the top all the 8 states of the Northeast are there in the top 10. And let me name the top five. Number one is Mizoram. Number two is Nagaland. Number three is Arunachal. Number four is Sikkim, and number 5 is Manipur. Now, what stands out in this is there are four states that border Myanmar, and all four of them are there in the top 5, except for Sikkim, which is 4. So surely there is a connect between their geographical location, how they are, and what is happening across. Now, what's happening across? The viewers are aware of the Golden Triangle, which came into existence in the 50s and 60s when the uh, communists of China, some of them came and created this. They found this environment uh, very conducive to growing poppy, and those times some of them even one of the American authors said that this is a reverse opium war that the Chinese are doing. They were affected by the opium war, and now they're trying to do something opposite, and in times to come this is going to affect the economies that were coming up, the ASEAN countries, and to some extent South Asian countries also, by extension means India. So this is some kind of a reverse opium war that they were trying. But the point is, now you again have to see the context. In the year 2022, April, the Taliban in Afghanistan till 2022 April was the largest producer of poppy, opium, and then heroin. Suddenly, they announced a ban, and from 2000 to 2023, in that 1 year, 90% of their production just stopped. And when it stopped, the complete simultaneously there was an increase in the Golden Triangle, and in Golden Triangle again, Golden Triangle comprises of three countries, the intersection of Myanmar, Thailand, and Laos. Now, in these three countries, the spurt that happened of growth of poppy cultivation was in Myanmar, in Shan State, which borders China. Again, I'm trying to give these details so that intelligent people would hazard a guess or will be able to guess as to why is it happening and how is it happening. Because this is one very good way of taking sorting out a country. That is, you target their youth, rest things will fall in place. I spoke of the statistics of the top. I mean, the all the 8 states being in the top 10. Now, what has also happened is uh, the quantum of drugs that have been caught have increased over the last 5 years. Uh, Now, since I've been in the chair of the DG Assam Rifles, I can give you certain facts of and this is there in the public domain. Again, seconded by the NCB, Narcotics Control Bureau, as also by ONDOC, the UN agency that looks after drugs. So let's see year on year. Last year, 2024, Assam Rifles got contrabands worth uh, about 2,000 crores. Sorry, 1,700 crores. A year previous to that was 1,500 crores. A year previous to that was 800 crores. A year previous to that was 500 crores. So year on year, it has increased. There was only a slight dip during COVID, but when all of this is happening, I just spoke of Assam Rifles bordering the Indo-Myanmar border. But if you look what has happened inside, because all these drugs contrabands eventually go to Guwahati, from where it goes to rest of the country. Now, not only is it affecting the youth of these states, but it is again going into rest of the country. Now, what is it that makes poppy cultivation or opium cultivation? I mean, why is it so attractive for the farmers? The simple reason I can give you is uh, per acre, whatever paddy gives you, this opium gives you 18 times more. If I have to give it in figures, 1 kg of the poppy or opium which you get is about the farm price. That is at the farm where the farmer gives. He gets $330 per kg. When the same thing is converted into heroin, uh, that cost goes up 10 times. It becomes $3,300 per kg. So that is the kind of money that is
Scaling,
involved.
yeah.
And I did a rough calculation of how much this would be, considering that there has been an exponential growth of poppy cultivation in Myanmar. I'm just talking about Myanmar. I found out that, again, my calculation, the just heroin worth $1 billion has been made or extracted, and it has gone to various places. Of course, it would have followed the sea route also, but fair to assume that a large quantity of that would have entered Bangladesh, would have entered India. And the figures that I spoke of Assam rifles catching, I admit it possibly could just be the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot that is happening. So this is an area of concern which I felt I must highlight. And before I come to the Christianity, so there's one more angle I want to cover here
Yeah,
because
please.
the Northeast, in a big way, again doesn't make headlines, but when you're there, you see it. And as the DGS, whenever I used to be flying over the Northeast, it used to be so starkly visible is the illegal mining and ecological degradation that is happening. And in very very remote parts of states where there are no roads, you have this kunta gadi, those erstwhile shaktimans taking all of that is mined there, coal largely, um, and all these mining activities happening illegally. And like I said, it looks like the surface of the moon, lunar surface, and it is contributing immensely to the ecological degradation that is happening, and as a consequence also the climate change that is happening now. What is happening in the last 5 years itself, if you study the monsoon pattern of Northeast this year, again I'm told the rainfall overall has been scanty, but there have been spurts where the rains have been so intense that it has resulted in floods in Assam, in Manipur, in Mizoram. People think, oh, this is normal, floods तो हर साल आता है, ये तो होता ही है. But what is difference is the difference is there are only spurts, but there are huge dry spells also in between, which was never the case. Monsoon meant monsoon all those 4 months or 5 months, but now there are intermittent periods where there's no water at all. So this is something which has to be addressed. I'm sure the powers that are involved in this, starting from the states itself, are taking care of this. My last issue, which I want to flag here, is about Christianity, and we need to go back in time and see as to when did actually Christianity come here. Essentially, the states of Mizoram, Nagaland, and Meghalaya. These are the three states which have a Christian population of close to 90%. And Christianity itself, all these three states have been carved out of Assam after independence. Christianity has come much before independence. And again, if I had to name the years, 1864 it came in the Mizo Hills, 1872 it came in the Naga Hills, and then it came to the Lushai Hills, um, which is Mizoram. Sorry, and I said Mizoram earlier. Earliest it came was in the region of Meghalaya. Meghalaya followed by Nagaland and followed by Mizoram. So it's come in the late 19th century. But after that, at the time of independence, or for that matter, for example, when the state of Arunachal Pradesh was made, uh, Arunachal Pradesh had a population, Christian population of only about 4%. But today that has gone up to 30%. Missionaries are coming in a big way, and I want to flag what the present Chief Minister of Mizoram said in the Assembly this March. He said between June and December 2024, about 2,000 Americans and some people from the UK also, but the number was 2,000. He said came for purposes of church related activities, and I am very convinced that there is no requirement of so many 2,000 odd people to be coming. And what I have been able to establish from the people I know is that some of them have actually crossed across to Myanmar. And again, the chief minister in his statement, the second part of his statement was, one, of course, he said, I'm concerned, why are they coming here? Second thing he said was, I won't be surprised if some of them are former veterans who have served in army or are part of some paid militia. I'll not be surprised. Now this is quite it's a matter of grave concern. Why are they here? And in the last 3 4 months, again, a large number of them have come. Exact figures I don't have. I think by the end of the year, or maybe after another 2 3 months, the state would give out the figures. But truly, why are they here and why are they crossing out to Myanmar? Given the situation that exists in Myanmar, you need to connect all the dots. You have these people coming, then the humanitarian corridor. Why are they all trying to get into Myanmar? Yes, overtly it will look like they want to offset all the projects that the Chinese are undertaking in the state of Rakhine or elsewhere in Myanmar. But at the same time, it's going to affect our projects also, like the Kaladan multimodal project, for example. It comes through Rakhine, comes into Chin state, and then into Mizoram. So all these are also going to get affected. So it goes beyond spreading the religion. There is also an influx of weapons that is already happening or possibly will happen in future. So I wanted to flag this.
Yeah, very important. Yeah.
With that, I'm open to questions if there are any. So,
Yeah, there are, and I think which you brought out very important things. This Christianity conversion originally it was little, it was local, but now off late it has I think grown to proportions which are quite alarming. That's the first thing, and the drug business is also alarming. And I dare say that the kind of things which are happening in Myanmar with the kind of even rare earth mining which is taking place illegally, the drug thing there happening. Sooner or later, the Americans will enter that, and the Soviets are also going to follow in because Soviets have a good, if you remember, Soviets have a good hold in Myanmar because most of the equipment of Myanmar is Soviet equipment, and of course the Chinese, and we have our own interests there. Plus, the tribes have their own interests, which many times we discount because the people on ground have their own interests, and none of these interests are converging with each other. So I think we are in for a not a very easy time. We might have not many things going immediately at this point of time, and I must thank you for giving a overview of what's happening in Northeast. Right? I want to tell everyone, look, Northeast is not easy. It's not everyone's baby. It's a very complex place, and that's why I thought the best person who can talk to us about Northeast is here. So I'll take some questions, right, and we'll.
can I just add one more point since you brought
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah. Please, please,
rare
please.
thing which didn't find mentioned in my talk? It's very important. You spoke about rare earth and the likelihood of the US coming. Um, and the media will tell you that China is has the hegemony over rare earth. It controls about 68% of all the rare earth minerals are with them, and 80. These are figures which are there in the net, and
Mm.
83% of all refined rare earth again are with the Chinese. But
Sure.
nobody knows that of these 60%, almost 30 or 40% of that comes from Myanmar. They're
Yeah.
mining from Myanmar. They're all
No,
taking it
no.
from state, from Shan state,
Chance
and
state. Yeah.
people there are suffering. Anybody can just Google rare earth, Kachin state, and you'll be shocked to see what damage the Chinese have done. But that awakening is coming within the Myanmaris, even with the uh, Kachin Independent Army, which is sponsored by the Chinese. They're also not giving free access to the Chinese. If you recollect a month or 2 months back, the Chinese have suddenly stopped exporting rare earth, and everybody said, no, no, this is because of the trade war of
They
Trump.
were not getting it.
They were not getting it in the first
They're
place. The
not getting it.
KRS
I
stopped.
know that. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just wanted to highlight that issue also.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, for all viewers, go to Ganashot and put rare earths, critical minerals. I've done 3 shows on this. Complete uh, dysprosium, is comes from Myanmar. And if you see the way Xi Jinping's high productive forces, everything which started off in 23, 24, right? And before that, if you see the kind of mining which went on in Myanmar 6 months before that, there's a lot of dots you can connect. You can connect dots of rare earth, you can connect dots of, what shall I say, the Chinese activities in terms of reaching Kaladan, I mean, reaching the Bay of Bengal. You look at drugs, you look at electricity and water, what they're doing. We're all linked. Yesterday, I saw an article in which now the rare earth problem is not confined to Myanmar alone. because the Mekong, one tributary of Mekong called Coke, I think, that river comes from, that bordering state, Shan. It comes down and goes into Thailand, and then it joins the main Mekong River. So this rare earth business has now started hitting Mekong. Now, if it hits Mekong and there is a lot of arsenic poisoning in that, then you're looking at this being affected by this being
all the
Vietnam,
countries.
Cambodia, and Thailand, all three countries being affected. So sooner or later, this is going to become an issue, and I think we need to start looking at it, and we'll talk of it in Ganashot as we go along. Okay, right. Uh, I'll take a few questions. I will not this thing, and some I'll answer and finish off. I'll only those which you need to answer, Pradeep. I'll give it to you. The first is, sir, when will Indian border infrastructure at LAC out match China? It will never do that. Why it will not do? Because the terrain there is different. The terrain is here is different. You can't build roads on our side, whereas there you can build roads. Okay. Akash, Jai Hind, thanks a lot. AA, good evening. Thank you. Uh, Blank, late Jai Hind and Jai Bharat. Priyanka also, thanks a lot. Good evening to you. Um yeah, Akash, north, east, south, and west China is flooded. Most large cities, Chinese cities are underwater. Their dams are overflowing. If push comes to shove, can China mobilize their PLA even in Yunnan? I don't think so. I think they're okay that way. Then Ashok Gazula, thanks a lot. It's been a long time. You came in the morning, back now again. Neil Aluwalia, again, good evening. Uh, yeah, I think you need to address this. He says, sir, so many landslides all over. Why don't the government address the connectivity issues?
Um, Landslides in the northeast, or are you talking of Himachal and
Yeah,
other places?
northeast. Yes, those places only. Northeast generally,
I,
Arunachal.
I
After
did
all, you
make
know it. I mean,
I did make a mention of this climate change. There are these sudden intermittent spurts of intense rain, um, which was not thought of, we not catered for. And I've seen one landslide myself as the DJ Sam Rifles in 2022, um, June, when it happened, where 62 people, this is Manipur, I'm talking of a place called None Tupul, where this happened. And this is where, along the place where the railway line was coming. And here, unfortunately, we lost 30, 31 men of the T battalion also amongst these 62. Why I'm giving you this example is because this landslide just took away that complete camp of the TA battalion, TA platoon which was there. But when it was deployed there, it was deployed after a lot of consultation with the geological people, and they said, no, no, this is quite safe and all of that. But then one fine day, again, you had this great amount of rainfall coming, and it just went off. So certain things are beyond our control, but wherever there is a possibility, wherever we know that there is a likelihood of some landslides coming, measures are being taken to address that also.
yeah, right. Lofi says, greetings, sir, and everyone listening from Laitumurka, Shillong. Great. So that's your area.
That, that's my former area, and good
Yeah,
to hear
former
from you.
area.
Lofi, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. And Anjali Martins is connecting from the other end of the earth, from Connecticut. Thanks a lot. So Shillong to Connecticut, Gunner Shot connects. That's great. Uh, yeah. With due respect, I always feel we will still not come somehow culturally connect with Northeast with the other parts of India. Do you think that is right? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. Amitesh, the problem, I think, is largely here. We have to assimilate them. Just because they look a little different, they have a culture which is different. Actually, their culture is much better. They have much better civic sense than rest of the country. And this thing which we keep saying, Northeast, mainland India, that binary itself should go. There is nothing like
Mhm.
mainland there as mainland as you are.
We are.
You can just say Northeast and rest of India. That in some way is understandable, but surely not mainland India. When you say mainland, that means this is the area which is our main area of focus. This is where development will happen. Not so. Increasingly, the children from the Northeast are now coming, and like Jen Shankar and I said some time back, these people who are now there in very large numbers in the services industry in rest of the country are actually the ambassadors of Northeast, and that's how they're being assimilated. Of course, few years back, you had these people from the north, the people from Northeast being called by certain names, but gradually that is dying down. They are getting assimilated, but there is also a need for people from rest of the country to go there. When all these investments are happening, it's surely not possible that it's only the people of Northeast who will take part in that. Um, we have to have people from rest of the country, and people like you, if you can go, surely that will help.
Yeah. So, what is the reason that Northeast was kept underdeveloped and underfunded for all these decades? Development is the best way to counter insurgency. So, why no urgency? Why J&K given so much and Northeast so little?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it is asked very often. I started by telling you that just 8% of the geographical mass and just 4% of the population. So the starting point is there. When you have only 4% of the population, you can kind of understand what is the significance of that place. Then is the harsh terrain, and the connectivity issue was also a major point, because you just have the Siliguri corridor, that 22-kilometer stretch through which everything has to go. If there was no Bangladesh, for example, uh, now Bangladesh again, a certain part of Bangladesh, if not the entire Bangladesh, if certain parts of Bangladesh were made part of India, like the Chittagong Hill Tracts, for example, they were not Muslim dominated at all. There was no reason for Ratcliffe to give that portion to them. If that had happened, then you'd have had sea connectivity routes from the Chittagong port. Uh, and there is a road which comes right from Shillong, comes down to Sylhet, and then goes to Chittagong. In fact, that is how the connectivity was before independence. Now suddenly you imposed a new cartographic imposition, one new East Pakistan gets created. You cut off all the lines of communication. Traditionally, those were their trade routes. Those are the routes of their economic development. In fact, at the time of independence, the GDP of Northeast was much better than rest of the country.
Hmm.
So was the contribution towards the country's economy. It was much better. Uh, Now, because of all these reasons, Northeast got neglected, and also for the reason of the Chinese presence, and then the 1962 war, and then the government shying away from developing the region, thinking that if we develop, then the Chinese might come. Because after all, they did come almost till Tejpur came knocking um, deep inside Assam. So all these things kind of held them back, and in the process, it got neglected. But that is no longer the case. Things are much rosier, much better.
Yeah. Let me take. Yeah. Uh, could you please shed some light on the SU process? How exactly is contact made with groups, trust established, and negotiations undertaken? How is delegation of powers and responsibility decided? Just keep it fast, but otherwise,
Okay.
you know,
But the question is
there's a
from dear.
never-ending, there's a huge subject, right?
But the question is from future DG artillery. That's,
That's his name.
just
He
get that.
calls himself that. That's okay.
I like that name. Um,
Yeah.
Now, the complete process of suspension of operation in Nagaland, it's called ceasefire. Actually, different names for the same thing. When you have a situation where you're no longer fighting each other, uh, you establish something called as the suspension of operations, and then there are certain places where you decide to give them camps where they take shelter, and this is again on a give and take business process. And recently there was a lot of talk happening on this in Manipur also. There are certain Sioux camps which are going to be shifted away from where they exist, and certain new created for some of the new insurgent groups that have joined the ceasefire. And how is delegation and power responsibility decided? That's all by mutual consent. Those are all legislated. Those are there in black and white.
Okay. Are Nepal and Bhutan stakeholders in the Northeast given top military visits to Bhutan last month?
Yes, of course. Bhutan is a very important country. I'll take one by one. Bhutan, because it's so close to it, it is on one side of the Chicken's Neck, and then the Siliguri corridor. Doklam happened in the face of Bhutan, right at Bhutan in 2017, and it is very important to us. So is Nepal, because that is the other side. That's at the beginning of the Siliguri corridor. So those two countries are as important as rest of the other countries are, but I didn't cover them because currently what's happening in those countries is not affecting us, and those countries are not in turmoil as the other two are, which I spoke about.
Okay. Why the Christians and mullahs are into conversion business? That's their business anyway. Yeah, your view.
Uh,
Your view.
actually, peculiar to both these religions, they have their own interests, and it should not be taken as a stated national policy of any country. Let's talk of Christianity, for example. It is just that these people want to spread this religion because there are a large number of people here who don't follow any religion. Arunachal Pradesh, for example, like I said, when at the time that the state was created, 80% of them were animists, that is, nature worshippers, which they still are. Of course, there are Buddhists. Buddhists form 30%, but today Buddhists and Christians are equal in number. Both are 30-30%. So rest of the 40% are still enemies, which means they don't follow any religion. So these religious institutions want their religion to be followed. Hinduism doesn't do that, but that's how things are.
Okay. So when will the last 40 kilometers of Kaladan project be finished? What are the issues there and what can we do about it?
Oh, that's a good question, Anjali. Now, that road stretch is about 108 kilometers that you're talking of, where this road has to be made. This is in Myanmar. Now, in this, like you very rightly brought out, 40 kilometers not made because of the fighting that is happening there. The Arakan army is present there. That is one reason. Second is it has been contracted on number of occasions, contracted and recontracted. The current contract is actually has been ordered to the third contractor. Initially, they were all Indians. Then the Arakan army wanted that it should be given to somebody who's local. And when it was given to somebody who was local, they couldn't deliver because they didn't have the capacity to do that. Uh, Now, currently, again, is it's with the contractor who is of Myanmar origin. Um, it's not happening because of this fighting that is there. But what is heartening to know is, I think only 2 days back, our government has announced that 2027 it will be completed. And when the government announces that, I take it that there would be some back channel talking that has happened with the Arakan army as also with the Myanmar army to ensure that this comes there. And it's not that Kaladan is only important to us; it is as important for the states of Rakhine and Chin, because these are two very underdeveloped states or regions of Myanmar.
Okay. What measures are being taken to combat climate change in the Northeast?
Now, this is largely being addressed by respective states. It has been brought to the notice of the states, and Meghalaya, which I spoke of, where a lot of, and Assam, where a lot of illegal mining is happening. The states are taking people to task and cutting off all their. I mean, like I said, most of them are illegal. They are being put behind bars. Legal action is being taken, but again, it'll take a while for that. Same is the case with deforestation. A lot of deforestation has happened across in all the northeastern states, and amongst them, the least is in Arunachal Pradesh, and that I would attribute because of less population. Arunachal just has a density of population of 17, as against Assam, which has about 390.
Yeah. Next is, are rare earth minerals available in the Northeast? Yeah, my guess is they would be available, but
Yeah,
we are
this.
not going in for it because you see, anywhere you touch rare earths, there's a lot of environmental issues, and not only environmental issue, habitat, uh, poisoning, all that comes in. And again, I go back to what I told you. Go back to that video which I did, where rare earth is not available anywhere. It's there in a little more quantity in certain places. There you put oxalic acid and leach it out. That is bad, and that is what's for ultimately it is all arsenic poisoning. So that's the way it is. I'll not go into it. Can India's actist policy be more attractive for media consumption because the tourism market has room for expansion and Japan is interested in investment in a few northeast states? I
Yeah.
don't think so. I don't think so. We are running too far ahead of the curve. Northeast can't absorb all this. Northeast you have to be a little slow in Northeast to make things happen. I'll not, yeah. I think I think we are done with largely all the issues. I must thank General Pradeep Nair for having, consented to speak to us today
Thank
on
you,
the
sir.
Northeast and also
I,
taken on all questions. Yeah. And I must also thank all of you for having attended and asked so many questions. I still see so many questions. And I'm not, at this point of time, going to take any more questions because we'll run out of time. Uh, Tomorrow morning, again at 9 o'clock, we're going to talk of India and USA. So till then, have a great day. And Pradeep, thanks a lot for joining in. If you want to you want to have finally say something, please do say so. Otherwise, we'll say Jai Hind to everyone.
uh, I always consider myself to be an ambassador of the Northeast. So, self-appointed, you may say, sir.
Yeah.
Having spent 2 decades there, my request to all the viewers is, please plan your next holiday to Northeast, not just as a holiday, but to understand how significant this area is. And you can just target one state, plan a week's visit, and having gone there, just read up a little on the history, the culture, and just drive through the traffic. And you'll be surprised to see that nobody honks, nobody overtakes, and you might possibly feel you've come to a different country and this is not India. There are a lot of takeaways that are there from the Northeast.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I could also add to all those stories, but we'll take a long time. Northeast is different, and one has to be part of Northeast to understand what is Northeast. It is our country. It is up to us to develop it the way it should be developed as per the way the people there want it, not the way we want it here. Okay.
Absolutely.
With this, yeah. With this, thanks a lot. Good evening, and thanks a lot, Pradeep. Jai Hind to
Thank,
everyone, and good night.
thank you, sir. Jai, Jai to everyone.
Jai Hind.